question. You said some of our classmates went to the AM session,
Yes.
like online, or
Yes. Yes.
Oh.
Online. Yes. Yes. No, not in person.
Yeah.
They had a conflict with that. Well, if you are interested in playing with me a little bit, experiencing something new. Before I do that, just in case people want to. Oops, sorry. I find that every time I do it, it helps a little bit. So if you're interested in trying to pay attention a little bit better, to pay attention on purpose, I would invite you to find a seated posture where you are upright, but relaxed, comfortable, but confident. Bring awareness to your breath. As you exhale, just sink into your seat a bit. And know that you are sitting. So this practice has 3 parts. 2 of the parts involve the singing bowl in my hand. In the first part, I'm just going to ring the bowl. The task is simple. I want you to notice when you first hear the sound of the bowl, and then when you can no longer hear the sound of the bowl. And you can do this with your eyes closed or open, it doesn't matter. Next, I'm going to make the bowl sing. This time, since it'll be a little bit longer. Again, notice when you can first hear the bowl, you can no longer hear the bowl singing. But since it's going to be a little bit longer, you may find yourself getting distracted. A thought might pop up, a sensation in your body, an itch, a scratch might emerge. Maybe you'll even feel something. When you notice it, when you're distracted by it, see if you can simply come back to what you're listening to, come back to the sound of the bowl. As the bowl goes away, I'm just going to try to pay attention to the sounds around us. Again, with the understanding that getting distracted is normal. When we notice that we are, we come back to whatever it is that we're listening to, whatever it is that we're doing. closed, I would invite you to open them and come back into the space. One more deep breath. Allow yourself to come back. That's the practice. There's a lot of people who somehow have come to the belief that meditation really is just a big word for all sorts of different contemplative practices. It's all about clearing your mind, reaching some state of nirvana or enlightenment. It's actually the opposite. Our brains are always trying to take us away from the present moment. Through a practice like this that makes that hopefully a little bit easier to come back after you are distracted, to maintain your focus no matter what's going on. Thank you for playing around with me. Thank you for practicing with me. Shall we go on to the biology? All right, so my hope is that before you came to class today, you watched that Edpuzzle video on bioenergetics with Mr. Paul Anderson. He's like this really famous AP biology teacher now. So the questions are simple. You were introduced to biological processes, cell respiration, and photosynthesis. They may have been brand new, but I bet they were review. So the task is simple. Is respiration anabolic or catabolic? Circle your choice. And then is photosynthesis anabolic or catabolic? Circle your choice. Might take you about, I don't know, 20 seconds. All right, here's the nice part. Oh. I can actually see all of your responses. Well, I've always been able to do that, but now you can see everybody's responses too. So yeah, respiration is a catabolic process. Molecules are being broken down, energy is being released. Photosynthesis is anabolic. Energy is being absorbed as molecules are being synthesized. Let's just do a quick scan. Beautiful. Oh, with decoration and polka dots. I like it. Blood red. Nice. Circles. By far, you folks did the best all day long. Oh, we have one flip-flop there. Yes, yes. Good. Oh, and one more flip-flop. Okay. So indeed, respiration is catabolic. Photosynthesis is anabolic. So what we want to begin to do today is, again, we're kind of moving from a 30,000 foot perspective to a 20,000 foot perspective in regards to energy transfer within a living system. But with these two processes in mind, we've got one that's absorbing energy, but where's the energy coming from that's being absorbed in a photosynthesis? Not ATP. Actually, believe it or not, photosynthesis is going to make some ATP. Where's the energy coming from that's going to be absorbed? The sun. Light energy is driving an anabolic process. Once that process takes place, and molecules like carbon dioxide and water come together to make molecules like sugar, glucose, up here it's organic molecules. I know it's small on the smartboard. I hope you can see it better on your device. We'll get some oxygen along the way, that pesky oxygen. Cell respiration takes over. And through catabolism, cell respiration is going to break down those sugars in the presence of oxygen to regenerate carbon dioxide and water. That gets funneled back into the reactions of photosynthesis. Okay, but of course, since respiration is catabolic, some energy is going to come out. Okay. Remember though that no matter what type of process we're looking at, whether it's anabolic or catabolic, there's always going to be a release of thermal energy into the surroundings. Because even if we're storing energy anabolically, or we are releasing energy catabolically, we never have a 100% efficient energy transfer. Some of that energy is going to be lost in the form of heat. Bringing that back to Monday, that's good, because that ensures that even in a simple system like this that is relatively ordered, through those energy transfers out into the surroundings can become more disordered. The universe can become more disordered. And as a consequence, the system can remain ordered. The second law is never violated. Okay. Just stopping there. Questions, curiosities, anything you're wondering about so far? Jacob and Ben, I've got the chat going, so if you want to post something in the chat, you're always welcome to. Oh, maybe you already did. Let me make sure. Oh. There you go, Ben. Right. So what I'd like to do with you, we'll do one together, maybe two if you need to, and then you can do some work independently, is to look at some other biological reactions, right, that are not just photosynthesis or cell respiration. Because, well, you know what, let me pause there for a second. You better write these down and memorize them. Because if you don't, well, high school, just drop out. College, don't bother. You're probably not going to find a significant relationship in life. So, you know, your mortgage rate will probably be much higher than it would be had you been able to write one of these reactions or both these reactions on your mortgage application. So the reactions themselves don't matter, but I want to give you some practice with different types of biological reactions that aren't these, so that we can figure out whether or not they're catabolic or anabolic. Okay? And you will not recognize these. So if you do recognize these reactions, maybe from middle school, these reactions you won't recognize. And you better memorize these reactions too. They're super important. All right, so I'm gonna go back to the agenda slide, okay, and click on this link to the Jamboard gallery walk. And I made one for every class, AM and PM. I think you folks, we hover, are all the way down here on the bottom right. Okay. All right, so the instructions are the same for all of the boards that I created. You're going to see a reaction on a board. And as you look at that reaction, what you want to decide is that reaction illustrating a catabolic or an anabolic process, an endergonic or exergonic process, a spontaneous or non-spontaneous process, so on and so forth. Would it help to quickly review spontaneous versus non-spontaneous? That was something that came up earlier. But if we're good, it's okay to move forward. Nobody's saying anything. I'm assuming that means you're okay with it. What we're trying to do as we look at these reactions is really figure out, given everything that happens in the first four bullet points, can we determine whether or not that reaction is likely to occur or not likely to occur energetically, thermodynamically. Right? What questions do you have before we get started on this? Chat here. We're going to do one together, and then I'll give like a pair or three of you one do together. Yeah. All right. So I will do one with you. Okay. So this is the simplified reaction for photosynthesis. Okay. So heck, I bet you can already tell me. Get a color here. That works.
is photosynthesis anabolic or catabolic? We just did it, right? It's anabolic. Well, how do we know? Well, again, we're taking molecules and we're putting them together into more complex molecules. Okay, that's an anabolic process. All right, well, this brings us back to Monday. Are anabolic processes endergonic, energy absorbing, or exergonic, energy releasing? They're endergonic. All right. We could even connect that back to Monday and say, all right, let's draw an energy diagram for a process like this. Right? So we have our reactants, carbon dioxide and water. We know there's some activation energy barrier that's going to need to be overcome to get to our products. So we could come in here. Sorry, I'm using my mouse. There's our activation energy barrier. But of course, the change in energy, it's a plus, I promise, right? It's positive because the products have gained energy from the surroundings. They have more chemical potential energy than the reactants. In general, if a process is endergonic, it is also non-spontaneous. We literally do not expect it to occur. Why? Well, one of the reasons is because it decreases disorder. At first glance, it looks like it violates the second law. Trust me, it doesn't. But as a consequence of all 4 of those bullet points above, we expect photosynthesis to be energetically unfavorable. Huh? But doesn't it happen? Isn't it happening on Earth right now? Obvious question. Why? It shouldn't. Why does it? Sun, sun, Mr. Golden Sun, please shine down on me.
Does the sun like give enough activation energy?
Yes. The sun is providing the light energy to overcome the activation energy barrier, right? And get those reactants to react in a way that the products form. And the products actually end up storing some of that light energy, not in the form of light, but chemical potential energy. We'll get there eventually this year, so that they possess more energy than their reactants do. But the only way that happens is if the sun keeps shining. That seems kind of silly, right? Bergeron, the sun is gonna rise tomorrow. It's gonna keep shining. It's not gonna like die. Oh, not in your lifetime, but it is scheduled to die. But here's what's more important to biologists. It's not about the sun going away. It's about the extent of illumination decreasing. What happened in California, in Oregon, in Washington this summer? Happens really every summer. Fires, wildfires. Wildfires that haven't been seen in that part of the United States in decades, and yet are becoming more common, frequent and intense than they have been as well. Maybe you saw the pictures in your social media feed. Maybe you saw the videos on the news. Folks, day became night. There was so much particulate, so much smoke in the air that the light got blocked. You might say, big deal, it's only temporary. It's a huge deal because at least temporarily for several days, the photosynthetic organisms that were relying upon light illuminating them did not have access to that light. They weren't able to overcome that activation energy barrier. They weren't able to drive photosynthesis forward. If the process becomes less efficient, photosynthesis becomes less efficient, whoa, wait a minute. That sounds like a bottom-up trophic cascade where now my producers have less available energy to transfer to higher trophic levels. Oh, oh, those higher trophic levels are now in jeopardy where before they weren't. Species diversity decreases, the number of a particular species could decrease, or both. And all of a sudden, that entire system is in jeopardy simply because photosynthesis became less efficient as light intensity decreased. This is why climate change matters. Living systems are in jeopardy as the climate changes. A lot of me talking. What are you thinking about this?
Is thermodynamically favorable meaning that like, I don't know, I remember we were talking about like heat or like, yeah, heat being lost and that being like a waste product, so does favorable mean that like there's less heat loss or something?
No, I wish that it did. It simply means that in terms of energy transfer, whether that's heat energy or some other form of energy, go back to your 9th grade energy box diagrams with light. God, what do you do? Gravity and light and sound and all the different forms of energy and how energy can be transferred from one form to another, right? What we're focusing on is if something's favorable, it's more than likely releasing more energy into the surroundings than it's absorbing. And then conversely, if a process is unfavorable energetically, thermodynamically, it's absorbing more energy than it's releasing, whatever form of energy you might be looking at.
How is that law derived?
The second law?
Yeah.
Beats the heck out of me.
But like, what's it driven by? Just
Nothing's proven, right?
yeah, based on.
It's based on the fact that so this is, I don't know. So if you're asking for the mathematical proof, I do not know what the mathematical proof is.
Just like that.
Right. It's the idea is coming from this notion that in order for organized, structured systems to exist, right, that at first glance would violate the second law. So when scientists began to study those systems more carefully, what they began to realize was, okay, wait, this system can remain ordered and structured as long as everything else outside of it doesn't. Right? And because we can define the system and the surroundings almost arbitrarily, as long as the surroundings are becoming more disordered, more disorganized, living systems that are organized and structured can still exist. That's the simplest explanation that I could possibly give. And by simple, I mean, because I don't know how much further I can go personally as a biologist. You almost need to find your favorite physicist. He'll take you down a black hole.
Probably.
All right. You want to try a couple of these on your own? Okay. All right. So I'm going to give you control. So it looks like most of you are already on the Jamboard. Kind of followed the link. I'm going to let you draw on it. You might need to refresh the tab to be able to do that. But let's do it this way. Jacob and Ben, so since you're both at home, why don't you tackle board number 3? Okay. Then Sarah and Camilla, why don't you do board number, actually let's do Sarah, Camilla, and James, do board number 4 together. And let's see, board number 5, and then board number 6. Okay, take a few minutes, see if you can do what I did on your own board. Make sure I didn't.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Breaking apart into Mr. Bergen, could you determine like how long all by like
So releases energy.
So you think of the overall chemical reaction?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if there were more moles on the product side than the reactant side, that might be a clue, yeah. I hadn't thought about that. That's an interesting way to think about it. That should work most of the time.
And then that would be something.
Famous or not?
I was a really bad circle. It's okay, it's a mess. Leads to an increase, if it's spontaneous and it puts out energy that it
No,
would
it would be non-spontaneous.
or decrease, I said not. So that anything that's spontaneous is like decrease, right? Oh, yeah.
So if this decreases the number
Oh,
of
biology, yeah.
the number of molecules.
That's what I said. Well, it's bond break, so it's. Yeah. It's exothermic.
If you think you've got some answers, since this is supposed to be like a gallery walk, look at the other boards that are up there. We got in this class, we got
You want
3, 4, 5, and 6. Look at the other boards and see if you agree.
Oh, this
Eastern increase or
Do you agree? Do you disagree?
from the surrounding entropy is delta S. So
That's supposed to be. Well, I get bio yeah. So that one's like.
do you think it's safe? Sure.
Wait, which one did we do? What's the last one that people did?
Number 6.
Okay.
Yes, there's more in here for larger classes or if people want more practice. So as you're looking, are there any that you'd like to talk about as a group, or are we ready to move forward? Think that you're getting it.
This one.
Okay. Number 6, I can't see it.
Maybe number 3.
Number 3. Okay. So 6 and 3 and 5. Okay. We'll just go backwards since I'm already on number 6. All right. So in 6, we are taking a molecule apart. You don't know what that molecule is. Eventually you will. It's a protein. And we're taking it apart into 2 components. Those actually are amino acids. So this is indeed a catabolic process. It would be an exergonic process. It's going to release energy. That makes it spontaneous. That's going to increase disorder, increase entropy. And yes, that is a favorable process. When molecules move from having more energy to less energy, that is favorable. Beautiful. I heard 5. Okay. So 5, I'm going to change. Oh, I guess you use black, so I can use any color that I like. Maybe I'll use blue. This is actually a synthetic reaction. Those green molecules, you may not know what they are, it doesn't matter, are being put together. So we're making the molecule on the right. That makes this anabolic. Okay. Maybe I should do it this way instead. Use my highlighter. Okay. Since it's anabolic, it's going to be an endergonic process. The products are going to have more energy than the reactants do. That is a non-spontaneous process. We do not expect it to occur on its own. That would lead to a decrease in entropy, and that would be an unfavorable process. So you might even be noticing at this point, right, that once you kind of decide the top choice, they all fall like a row of dominoes. That's true most of the time. Are there exceptions? Of course there are, but. And then number 3? All right. Number 3, this one looks tricky, really because there's a couple different reactions occurring simultaneously. But what I'm hoping that you would notice is that there's a molecule of CO2 coming in as a reactant. It's being added to the reactant over here. You can see that that's where the CO2 is actually going. So short story long, we're building a molecule which indeed makes it anabolic, endergonic, non-spontaneous, decrease, unfavorable. What's cool about this though, and this is where we're going to be going on Friday. Oh, of course, now if I do that, you can't see it. We mentioned, albeit very briefly, the role of ATP in biological reactions on Monday. Is ATP being catabolized or anabolized? Is it breaking down or is it being made? So this is actually an example of an exergonic catabolic process and the energy that is released being associated or coupled to an anabolic synthetic process, which is the reaction on the screen. The two processes, the catabolic and the anabolic, are working together in order for the overall process to actually work. So, is that okay? So memorize all 11 of these, right? Make sure that you can highlight all the appropriate terms. And if you can't, well then, hit yourself in the head with your shoe. All right. Now is it okay to move on? So I'm going to pop out of this and we'll wrap up here in the next few minutes. So we have these reactions. Hopefully we can look at the reaction and gain some insight into whether they are catabolic or anabolic. We already said that the reactions of photosynthesis are anabolic in nature and the reactions for cell respiration are catabolic. But look at these reactions a little bit more closely. From left to right, from right to left. What are you noticing about these two reactions? Hey, what are you seeing? They're pretty much the same. The forward reaction of one process is the reverse reaction of the other process.
But what is the heat?
Well, remember that all of these processes involve a non-100% energy efficient transfer. So we're always going to be losing heat to the surroundings, whether the process is anabolic or catabolic. Okay? I kind of went a little crazy yesterday. I don't know if this is helpful or not, but I took each of the reactions and I harnessed my inner ninth grader and I drew an energy box diagram for each process.